Welcome to Cast Your Bets, the Offshore Gaming Association podcast with your hosts Jim Quinn of OSGA.com and J.R. O'Donnell of Red Zone Sports. Let's get started.
Hello folks, and welcome to Cast Your Bets, weekly podcast where we try to help you pick a few games, teach you a little bit about how to play the games, teach you a little bit about where to bet, where not to bet. In general, trying to help you cash some tickets. My name is Jim, here from OSGA, that's Offshore Gaming Association, with my good friend J.R. O'Donnell of Red Zone Sports and Pregame.com. J.R.O., what's going on with you?
Thanks for the introduction, my friend. It is hard to believe week 11 on the podcast. Really enjoyed doing these podcasts. Looking forward to hanging up some winners. The lines are getting sharp, so the people need to listen. We're giving out some great information. I got a rock-solid college game, and I got a nice NFL play, and I just can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, it's hard to believe we're in week 11 of the NFL season. It's real easy to see the teams that are contending versus the pretenders. I had a couple of picks last week. The college play didn't work out, but a nice fat winner on the Saints. And for those that listened to last week's podcast, you also got Jim's side play winner in there. And frankly, JR, I cashed the quarter, I cashed the halftime, and I cashed the full game on the Saints. Nice play last week.
Yeah, thank you, my friend. The NFL, they came to play. As the Saints were kind of an undervalued team, they play defense, and people were just suspect about that run and gun where Drew Brees just throws it up there. But you know what? The Saints are turning heads this year, and they're playing some defense. Buffalo was everybody's darling. The line went down to 2, 1.5. Everybody in the handicapping world, all my friends, the bangers in the industry, they were telling me Buffalo's the play. I held them to the ground. I drew a line in the sand, and I played the New Orleans Saints, obviously minus the number, and they just smashed them 47-10. On the flip side, I tell it like it is. Transparency runs supreme here. And this podcast, we tell you when we win, and we tell you when they lose. Baker Mayfield and the Oklahoma Sooners got it done, and their defense played one whale of a game. They held the TCU Horned Frogs and weren't even in the game. They put up 20, but Baker Mayfield put up 38. I had the dog plus the points. Oklahoma, my hat's off to, as they are a solid team, and they surprised me there. Oklahoma's defense got it done. Hey, bad in the college football, but we cracked them in the NFL.
Yeah, and you know what? The college football for me is tough this time of year with the way everybody's jockeying for a position, trying to get into the playoff, trying to get into their league championship game. I have a hard time reading the college this year, and frankly, I have a little bit better luck with pros. For me, once we get to week 11, where these teams only have 5-6 games left, it's time to start looking at teams to ride, teams to bet on. I think that you're probably with me in looking at good teams to do good things for you. Obviously the Eagles, they're the top team in the NFC. They're a team that's really been on fire. The Rams, the surprising Rams, I didn't have them at the beginning of the year. They're on fire. The Saints, your winner from last week, winners of like 100 in a row or whatever since those first two losses. They're all teams that I'm looking to bet on. What do you think about the theory of riding good teams at this point?
Well, you make some great points there about riding good teams. And in week 11, I tried to tell people out there that you need to do more information, more homework, and you need to work hard if you want to do this. Recreational gamblers are not going to win from week 11 out to week 16, 17. It's the people that get down and dirty and do their homework. Now, those teams like the Eagles, New Orleans Saints, Kansas City, they're 7-2 against the spread. They did their homework. They got a defense, and people are going to ride them. The lines makers obviously are going to be a little sharper now with some of these teams because some of these teams are going to turn into a public team. Now, if I can make a great point here, there's some teams that have been not doing too well, a la the Tennessee Titans, Oakland, which we talked about earlier. Those teams are going to surprise people on the way out here. So what I want people to do is do your homework, check the coaching situation, injuries, weather, check it all. And when some of these teams are down and out, some of these players are going to play for next year's position. They're impressing the coach maybe on the way out. McAdoo and the Giants is in a bad spot. But let me tell you, some of those teams will bite, and that nasty dog might be the kind of play on if you get the right situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some opportunities there with a team like a Titans. They're a team that I'm kind of looking at myself. Seems like Mariota's playing really well right now, and they seem to be clicking at the right time, maybe trying to make a playoff run, which I think is also important to look at at this time of year. Who's making that run to try and get a wild card shot there. Some other teams that I looked at were the Steelers. It seems to me like Big Ben's starting to come back a little bit. They seem to be clicking. I also, I'm surprised a little bit the Vikings without Teddy Bridgewater. These are some other teams I'm looking at, along with, everybody's darlings always the Patriots. They stumbled a bit this year, and people got off them, I think. And I also kind of like the Panthers, only because Cam Newton and company seem to really be coming together. They got some players back there. They surprised us a couple of weeks ago. So is it the time of year where you start saying, do I pick certain teams to look at? Am I looking at a Steelers? Am I looking at a Vikings?
Well, this time of year, when you look at the Steelers and the Vikings, week 11 on, a lot of guys taught me a lot of things in here. There's a lot of wise handicappers a little better than me, but defense covers the spread. You need to play teams late in the season here that can protect the ball and play defense. You talked about, obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers with Big Ben coming around, but they play good defense. They are in the top 10 in the defense. And Minnesota, say what you want about how they traded everybody and Bridgewater's down, they play defense also. So that point you made is a great point when you want to look at some of these teams that are questionable, on the margin, on the bubble teams. If they can play offense and can't stop anybody, I'm not playing them. But when they play defense and their stats and trends tell me about their defense, that's the time when you make the move.
Yeah, so maybe a Panthers is not the team to look at. So, that's good stuff, man. And obviously we want to stay away from the Browns. I'm staying away from the Browns. If they win one, in fact, I think we should talk about that next week. Let's prep for that next week. Which game are they going to win out of their last 5 games? I think that'd be a nice topic for the listeners to hear. Because then you bet them on the money line at like plus 500 or something. Speaking of money lines, we've been talking for the last few weeks about how the lines are getting sharper and sharper, especially since the teams have been going on the bye and whatnot. Is it the time of year where you start looking at a short money line on some of these favorites, some of these good teams? There's another strategy that I've heard some guys use, and I think it might be effective at this time of year, is to maybe parlay a 3-teamer with some money lines with, your Eagles and your Steelers and, maybe somebody else in there. Is that a viable situation to look at, or am I off base?
No, you're not off base there. The key there with the money lines and the money line parlays is the teams that are going to play defense and the short favorites that are playing well. You're certainly not going to money line an Arizona. You're not going to money line a Denver. You're not going to money line a Cleveland Brown. You're going to money line these teams that when you're going to look at this thing and you're going to do your homework and you're going to look at coaching and weather and stats and trends, what I do. I just have a big checklist. I am 100% on board with the short money lines, because what's going to happen is these teams at this time of year are going to give a maximum effort. They're not going to leave anything in the locker room going into the playoffs. They got the wild card, NFC championships. The good teams are in a groove right now. They practice the same way. The coach knows which buttons to push. The good teams just keep firing, and the bad teams just keep faltering.
Yeah, and I think it's important, if we're going to talk about money lines, to say short money lines. I'm not playing the New Orleans Saints at minus 400. I'm never going to do that. I'm not playing the Steelers at minus 360 this week. I'm never going to do that. So I think it's important, if you're going to look at a money line, if you're going to put it in a parlay, find a money line where there's at least a little bit of value there so you don't end up getting killed. The Chargers are minus 215, minus 220 at home against Buffalo. That's just a ridiculous play. Finally, you look at these good teams, the Saints, your Eagles, your Rams, some of these other teams that are 7-2, 6-3. These teams aren't going to win out. What kind of tools do you use, JR, going down the stretch from a handicapping perspective to say, hey, the Eagles aren't going to end up going 14-2 this year? Is it the kind of thing where they're going to lose 2 games down the stretch, 1 game down the stretch? How do you find that game and then play against them and really try to cash in?
Some of those big teams you need to look at when other teams are playing them off a bye and when they're on the road. Obviously, Philadelphia at Dallas this week. But what happens is, and we talked about it off the air, when some of those big teams falter, it's when they're playing teams that are coming off a bye, that have 2 weeks to prepare, that have all these guys that are banged up to get healthy. And some of these good teams going on the road to a team that's just backs against the wall, growling and ready to go on a bye week, that's where you want to fire. The other thing you want to talk about with some of these good teams is, hey, obviously they're not going to go 14, 15-1 with the spread, but what's going to happen is you need to find some coaching matchups, and some of these teams own some of these other guys. Like some of these coaches obviously were in the system. Some of these coaches are obviously going to be well matched and well versed. Sometimes the offensive coordinator is now the head coach. And that's when you want to look. You want to look at all those situations. I think the best thing to handicap here when you're looking to take a big favorite down is to look at the coaching situations, look at the injuries, and look at the bye weeks.
Yeah, and also I think you're also talking, seems to me like you're dancing around a little bit, maybe your division games too, where you have a little bit of a rivalry action there.
Absolutely. Division games, home dog in division is traditionally a great play.
It took a while to get there, JR, but there it was right there. Home dog division games are something that I'm going to be looking at moving forward here in the NFL. I like that an awful lot, man. Really like that. It's time for you to bring us an NCAA football game. Not a lot of weeks left. Teams vying for the playoff right now. And I know you're looking at the Michigan-Wisconsin game, Big Ten matchup. Huge game. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it's ESPN College Game Day there at the University of Wisconsin. So, that's always a good time. It makes it worth, maybe putting a few dollars on just because you get to watch the ESPN stuff. And, the guy's wearing the hat. What's he going to wear, the Badger head or something? Is there a Badger head? I don't know. But this looks like a nice game, man. Who are you looking at in this game?
All right, well, to bring you guys up to speed, obviously, it is a big marquee game. It is an ESPN game. And let me tell you, it is a bigger game for the Michigan Wolverines than it is for Wisconsin. Wisconsin has unbeaten pressure on these guys right now. Now, if I can delve into the game, Wisconsin opened up 10.5 or 11. And let me tell you, the sharp guys were all over Michigan. They moved that line down to 7.5. And it's currently 7.5, over a touchdown, which I'll take. But the Wisconsin Badgers 4-1 against the spread in the series here, and basically they're going to be at home, and they already secured a spot in the Big Ten title game. That's right, Wisconsin is in the Big Ten title game, and it gives everybody a reason, obviously, to play the Badgers. The Badgers this, number one defense, they can play. But you know what? This is a nasty live dog that is number 8 in the conference and 8 in the league here in defense. Wisconsin can play defense also, but they just cannot score. Two big Titans going toe-to-toe here. Number 3 defense, number 8 defense, and the line is 7.5. Michigan is going to give it their all. They are going to go into Wisconsin. They are going to play with some swagger. They got some great athletes on there. And Peters, that plays for Michigan, is not going to be as bad as he played in the past. I think I'm well aware, obviously, that Michigan is going into a real hornet's nest with Wisconsin, but I'm going to grab the 7.5. I'm going to play the Michigan Wolves with defense. They don't turn it over. And basically, they can run the ball, okay? They hold people also to 124 yards per carry. And I'm going to play that live dog with a good coach going in there to put a chip on the shoulder. This is a signature game for recruiting for Michigan after they got smashed a couple times. This is going to put some people back in the limelight, and the Michigan Wolves are going to get the job done.
Yeah, this is an interesting play. I mean, that the line opened at Pinnacle and Five Dimes and Heritage and I think Bookmaker at 10 for like 15 minutes. And then it started dropping, and it ended up down to 8.5 by I think the end of the day when it first opened on the 12th. And now it's at 7.5. The extra half a point there makes this an appealing play for me because Michigan can play such great defense. Against Iowa, I think they gave up less than 100 yards total offense to Iowa and won that game despite some other problems there. The Wisconsin, they've got a decent offense, but you have to look at Wisconsin saying, are they really a playoff team? And for them, I think the pressure's all on Wisconsin. I think the Michigan kids come in there and just fire away and have some fun probably and try to prove themselves. I like this play a lot.
Absolutely. If I can add a couple more points here, Michigan has some great athletes. I mean, you're talking top 10 kids in the nation. If you go on a football scholarship to the Michigan Wolverines, that is a great coach and some great athletes. Wisconsin, they're playing some defense. They are a slow run and grind battle. This is not going to be 54-53. This is not going to be 48-47. This is going to be ugly 21-17, 24-21 type ball game. None of these guys are going to go crazy here. And when you have a low-scoring game, you take the dog, and you take a dog that's got the pedigree.
Exactly, man. 7.5. The total's only 40 on this game, which for a college game is like it's non-existent. We really like this play, JR. Taking the Michigan Wolverines plus 7.5 at Wisconsin on the prime time game on ESPN on Saturday. Fantastic, JR. Good luck with that pick. I hope the listeners out there click on their favorite sportsbook and play that guy, or visit you over at pregame.com for some additional stuff. This is about the point in time when we take a quick little break, regroup, and come back in the second half of the show after a short message from OSGA.
The offshore betting industry is totally unregulated.
Where can you turn to make sure your money is safe offshore?
The Offshore Gaming Association, OSGA. Visit the Offshore Gaming Association at www.osga.com or call them toll-free 7 days a week at 877-OSGA-BET. That's 877-674-2238. Established in 1998, the OSGA has been the ultimate watchdog for the unregulated offshore betting industry. They have helped thousands of players find secure, reputable offshore wagering outlets and perform dispute resolution for hundreds of wronged players. Visit the Offshore Gaming Association at www.osga.com or call them toll-free at 877-OSGA-BET.
Folks, welcome back to Cast Your Bets here with my good friend J.R. O'Donnell over at pregame.com. JR, you got some stuff loaded up there at pregame for the folks this weekend?
Pregame is rocking and rolling. It's the best time of year. Basketball, hockey, obviously the NFL, college football. I'm loaded. It is the greatest time of year to be a handicapper. When Halloween kicks in and you're starting to give out that candy, JR is giving out a lot of winners, and I'm doing this 24/7. You know I do this full-time for a living. There's nobody that works harder than me, and I'm going to do my homework to put up winners here on the podcast, and I'm going to pride myself in putting them up at pregame.
I see you on Twitter all the time, man. Were you ripping it up in the NHL? I think you were, right?
I'm crushing it in the NHL. I'm up 37 units so far in the NHL this season. I rate my plays 1, 2, and 3 units, and everything is transparent. You know, when somebody tells you how good they are, you know, that's great. But what happens is my plays are at pregame. Every play I put, winner or loser, is there for everybody to see. They have a great website that calculates everything, and I am plus 37 units in the NHL so far this season. I am crushing it on ice.
See, I knew I could believe what I read on Twitter. I knew I could. Hey, one of the things that I've been seeing a lot on Twitter, and it's, of course, I'm involved in the industry here with OSGA, Offshore Gaming Association, for nearly 20 years. And right now we are on the cusp of having a change in the law of sports betting here in the United States. Unlike the rest of the free world, here in the United States, the only place you can bet full games is to go to Nevada. That's the only place you can bet full games. There's a couple in Delaware you can bet the parlay cards, but it's basically 4 states. And that's all on the cusp of changing because right now there's an upcoming Supreme Court hearing on PASPA. PASPA refers to the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. It's a law that came out in like 1969. Believe it or not, the champion of it was the old NBA Knick, Bill Bradley, and it's the law that keeps sports betting out of the majority of the states. So on December 4th, the Supreme Court is going to hear a case being brought by New Jersey. It's actually called Christie versus the United States in trying to get the PASPA law overturned. So the reason I bring this up, JR, and to the listeners out there is we've heard a lot of rattle about what's going to happen to the offshore world, what's going to happen to my offshore sports book. Should I worry about, the places going out of business, things like that. And really, the sports books are going to be fine. They are going to lose some players. I've heard estimates anywhere from 20 to 40% of their players are going to walk away because they'll get to play at a local place. I would personally start thinking about playing in a tiny little place. I see this law get passed. It might be time to move to one of the bigger joints out there, if I can't, walk down the street and go place a bet. The reason that the sports books are going to be around, there's a number of them. One, of course, is, online access. Even if you get sports books in California, there's no law for online gambling there. There's no law in Texas for online gambling. There's no law in Florida for online gambling. So even if they do get sports betting in those states, people are still going to want to point and click, and the easiest way to do that is to, do what they've been doing for the last, 2 decades. Obviously the offshore guys are going to offer everything under the sun. Like I said, in Delaware you can bet sports, but you have to bet a 3-team parlay or more. Where I think we're going to see restrictions like that. Might be paying 120 juice instead of JR might be paying 120 juice instead of 110.
Wow.
Yeah, because the way that the law is going to try and gouge the money out of this. There's also some anonymity when you're playing online. You don't have to get a social security number. No statement's going to come at the end of the year for your wife to see. You can decide what you want to do with taxes. We always recommend if you make money to pay taxes on that. But you'll obviously get a form if you're playing at parks or, one of these places. And, the availability. I can't see states like Montana. Utah's certainly not going to have it. Hawaii's certainly not going to have it. They don't have any gambling now. Oklahoma. Like a woman once told me, there's no sports betting here in Oklahoma. So these places are certainly going to help keep the offshore industry alive. So in the short run, outside of some smaller operations, there's no reason for alarm. I think we should all welcome legal sports betting. It's going to be fantastic if it works out. The books aren't really alarmed, so neither should the public be. You can feel free to go and place your NFL wagers this weekend, and JR is going to try and help us out, I believe, with an NFL winner after your win and my side play win last week. Because my side play win's really what the people call in for and listen for. It's all about the side play. But I know you've been looking at some games. We talked a lot about some betting on some good teams. Who are you looking at this week?
I'm going to look at a total this week. Now, obviously, people, sometimes they shy away from totals because people love to bet the favorites. They love to bet the sides. But you know what? I got a rock-solid total this week. And Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs are coming off a bye week against a pretty gosh darn awful, terrible, defensive-minded New York Giants team. Now, let me tell you about Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. They are a solid ball club. They move the ball well. They are well-rounded, and they can score. I got Kansas City scoring in the 30s this week. I think they put up 30 by accident against a New York Giants team that's in disarray. McAdoo's almost on his way out. The Giants are a terrible ball club right now. But you know what? I think the Giants can score 14 to 17 points this week. I think, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to put up 30. And I'm going to play the over 45. Now, I could say 44.5 or 40, but you know what? This is going to go through the roof. I think 45 right now is a solid line. I could see 45.5 or 46 by game time, and I am perfectly comfortable playing the minus 110 for a 45.5, 46, even 46.5 over the total. Kansas City comes in here 5-0 over as road favorites of obviously more than 3 points, and the New York Giants are 7-2 over non-conference home games. Now, that's the New York Giants team that obviously is a little better than the one we got now. They are certainly in disarray. They got crushed by the Niners, which that's right. They lost to the Niners 31-21.
It was so sad.
Yeah, it was sad. And the people in New York, I feel bad for the Giants fans. As you know what? I was high in the New York Giants. If you look back, JR and Jim, in the first one or two podcasts,
yep,
I had the Giants going places, and I was dead flat wrong. Now, obviously, the big blow to Odell Beckham Jr. obviously hurt them, a la the Green Bay Packers and Rodgers. But let me tell you, the over the total of 45 is a double-fisted bet. I am jumping up and down, and I'm going to play this thing powerful of over 45. Kansas City in the 30s. Giants put up 2 touchdowns, 17. That baby's flying over the total. My NFL play on week 11 here is over Chiefs Giants.
Nice, man. The Giants are 31st in total defense. I didn't look up to see who was 32. But I'm guessing it's probably the Cleveland Browns.
Probably the Cleveland Browns.
And that's a team that's going to give up a lot of points. There might be a team total in play that if you can get that at one of the offshore joints, which, I just talked about a minute ago, you're not going to be able to get that, if they pass this law. It seems to me like the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points here. Andy Reid off of by lifetime 16-2, which is insanity. So he's going to come out and fire away. I think Alex Smith is going to start to regain some form. I think he was starting to get a little beat up. He's not that young anymore. It just seems to me like, the total's going over in 5 of the Giants' last 7 games, too, despite, their offense scoring not that many points. So I think this is almost like an easy play at 45, and I think you're probably right. 46 is probably going to be where it lands, 46.5 maybe. I like this one a lot, man. I'm gonna click. Wait a minute, hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up on my screen here because I'm ready to click this baby right now.
Well, let me tell you, it is not going to be 45 by game time. I have this baby going up, but it is still a solid play. 45 is what we're throwing it in at, but I wouldn't be surprised if it hits that 47 number, and that's ugly.
Yeah, and certainly a play worth making. That would be JRO over, we're going to call it 45 for those keeping score at home in the Chiefs-Giants game. And we'll go back to that college play from before the little break there, where he's going to take the Wolverines of Michigan plus the points at Wisconsin for the NCAA play. 2 fat winners there, JR. I hope the listeners click on those. I hope they cash, and I hope they notice that the NFL overplay is a 2-fisted play, which means, and I'm going to bet $9 instead of my normal $5. So that should work out for me. I might even put that in a parlay. Who knows? I want to talk real quick. Every week I try to talk real quick about some things that we hear about. We've had a player, or 2 or 3 or 4 in the last couple of weeks who really beat the hell out of their sports book and basically got tossed out of the place with several thousands of dollars in their account, and then they get slow paid. It's unfortunate that this happens. They are getting paid, so it's not the kind of thing where it's a stiff job. But what we're seeing is if a customer has a problem at a place and they toss him out for whatever reason it is, especially if he's playing at one of the smaller joints. This kind of thing doesn't happen at 5 Dimes or Bookmaker or, Bet Online, some of the big boys. But at these smaller places, what they're doing is they're basically paying their active customers first. And once they toss you out, you're no longer active. So, when you run a big balance up at one of these smaller joints, you really have to stay on top of what you're doing. You have to watch your money management. I talked about it, I think, 2 weeks ago. If you get up $1,500 or $2,000 on a place where you deposited $200 and it's a tiny little place, you call me up at Jim at OSGA, you hit our guys on chat and say, hey, what do you know about this place? They've been around a year. If you get up $1,200, get $300 out. Don't let it get to $4,000 before you decide maybe I should make a withdrawal. Don't take a bonus that's going to give you an 80 million rollover, because then you're going to get stuck in a system where you're not going to be able to withdraw when you do get that big balance. And we've heard a couple of guys, and it's annoying. There's not really a lot we can do for them because they are getting paid. They are kind of on a schedule, if you will. But what you end up with is just be smart about what you're doing with your money. It's very easy to do. When you get up 4 times your balance, withdraw some money out. That's what we talked about a few weeks ago. When you get up 4 or 5 times your initial deposit, withdraw some money, put some cash in your pocket. Otherwise, you're going to be calling me up and you're going to be in a slow pay situation. I can almost guarantee it. Watch out for these smaller joints. Make sure you check out the Elite Sportsbook list over at OSGA.com. There's a top sportsbook list, Bitcoin sportsbooks, all kinds of good information for you at OSGA.com. We try to help you out the best we can each and every day, all year long. JRO, we're going to look for you over at Pregame.com this weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing what else you're posting up there. And you usually give our members a big fat winner, too.
Absolutely. Pregame.com is rocking with the plays, obviously. I'm going to fire a nice members play to you guys on Saturday. And I'm going to look forward to maybe hanging up 2 winners here. I love Michigan in the spot, and I love the over the total. I want you guys to play that with confidence, and we'll come back here, obviously, chirping in the next edition.
Can't wait for it, man. Week 12, we'll be back right here in this spot. You can find us out on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us at Blueberry. And you can find us on the OSGA.com website. Folks, that's it for this week's edition, Week 11 of Cast Your Bets. Hopefully you listened to what we had to say. Hopefully you're playing JR's play. And hopefully you cash some tickets this weekend. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Cast Your Bets, the Offshore Gaming Association podcast. Check in each week for more inside the sports gaming world. And don't forget to check us out on your favorite social media site and on our YouTube channel at OSGA Sports Betting. Thanks for listening.